So I've always been interested in merging issues of migration and performance. I grew up moving from India to the United States and then spent a lot of time in my childhood moving through the United States. So I was really interested in what it meant to perform identity, especially performing identities of migration. And when I got the Marshall, I was able to combine these two interests for the first time in a really exciting way by working on ethnography through the social sciences and working on applied theater and theater that's meant to build community and create relationships. So I do theater workshops with people who are displaced, refugees, asylum seekers, other migrants. I also create theater about human rights issues, usually derived from real testimony or real things that have happened. So this piece could bring all of that together.
My research is basically about menstrual health in refugee settings or in humanitarian settings. I had a bit of background in involvement in menstrual health back in Uganda because I sit on the National Menstrual Hygiene Management Committee. It struck me, okay, what happens in emergency settings? So out of that, I decided to literally focus my topic on, or my mind on working around the challenges, menstrual challenges that occur when a war breaks out. People leave their homes, they leave all whatever they can. What usually people do is they carry clothes, they carry a few things that they consider will help them while they are moving. But they will never, something that never crosses their mind is to carry a pad. And they would start moving. And the other thing is that periods don't wait for you to reach where you are safe. They don't wait for you to reach the place you are going to. Remember, when you're in a refugee setting, where you've reached in a settlement, it takes time for them to have toilets, to have all sorts of things. So kind of everything is not in place. And usually when that happens, everybody runs with food first because they think you're hungry. Everybody runs with clothes because they think you're naked. Now, there are those unseen things, but which affect the quality of life, which affect somebody's living, which affect somebody's future. And this is partly why I thought it was a topic worth exploring. And I was happy to go and present it in front of the Duchess.
So Ephraim and I were in the same group at the city event because we both work on refugee issues and issues concerning migration. And so I was asked to share my work at the intersection of refugee advocacy in the UK and theater and performance. After the event, Ephraim was really interested in my work and what it means to create theater about displacement. And he asked if we could collaborate on something that told the stories of Windle and Commonwealth Scholars. Because their stories are so interesting and often very untold. A lot of the migration narratives in this country are about refugees and asylum seekers coming from Syria. And Ephraim felt that African and East African narratives about displacement were not so common or heard as often. So he asked me to create a play based on their stories. Then he connected me to the other Windle scholars, and I told them about the project and what I wanted to do, which was to interview them, use their stories, and then fictionalize their stories in order to create a play that sort of told an amalgamation of histories of where they had come from around the specific themes of displacement and education.
We were fleeing the war, and your brothers wouldn't stop fighting with each other. Should have left you all there.
I like basing theater off of interviews and off of testimony because I think that the stories that people have that are underrepresented are really important, and that any way to amplify those stories to a wider audience through the lens of theater is something that can be really effective in building empathy, in helping people understand experiences that are not their own, and in creating sort of connections between people who have never met. We had a lot of responses from the audience that were like, that they had read about, for example, the massacres happening in Sudan on the news, but that they hadn't connected to it in the way that they were able to when they watched this play. So I think that is the most important connection for me between the interviews and the decision to turn it into a play. The Windle and Commonwealth Scholars were so open with their stories. They were so generous to speak to me. They really didn't hold anything back. Some of them we spoke for hours. And I think that was a really amazing experience for me as well, that we could speak for so long, and that they trusted me so much with their stories.
I am a victim of the war, yes, and it's in the story that I told. Having come from northern part of Uganda, I personally experienced war when I was in my secondary education. And I remember how everything unfolded, running up and down in the night, sleeping in the bush, and going without food, thinking about mom and dad, my siblings. And so I just got motivated to tell it out, how it all went, and how I survived in the war together with my family. I got involved in the play through Ephraim, who shared about everything with us, the few scholars, and being a part of the Commonwealth Scholars from the mighty northern part of Uganda, I got interested and I openly shared my stories. I felt it was very motivating to let someone know about who I am and what has happened in my life and know where I come from and whatever I have gone through. So it was amazing to share my stories and to tell the whole world what has been in my life and what I have moved with since I was born.
You and your father were both in exile. He had to flee Sudan and live most of his life in Uganda too.
We hope that the play will, among others, raise the profile of people that are supporting refugees. That's not just a simple task to support them. I think worth giving them credit to see where people have come from and you pick them and still help them. The other thing is that to raise the voice of people who are affected by conflict. I think especially people who have been affected by conflict in Africa, their voices have not been heard. Many times you will hear about the conflict in other parts of the world, but rarely in Africa. And I'll actually say that in Africa there's a lot of migration due to conflict and other issues, but happening either within the country or from country to country, and not necessarily moving into Europe or moving into other countries. But the point is that they face almost the same challenges.
What I expect from the play is to bring to light what war is all about from a perspective of someone who has experienced and from someone who has gone through it. And then, letting someone being part of my life and my stories. And then what I want the play to bring to light is how we can address the aftermath of the war. I am grateful that even with what I have gone through, I am still aiming at my dreams. I am still focusing on what I wanted before I even went through the war and after the war, and right now I'm still looking forward to achieving my dreams of who I want to become.
I think that there are a couple of things that I hoped would come out of this play, and for different people. So for the people who told their stories, who were the most important to me, I wanted them to feel that their stories were important and foregrounded, and to feel that other people would connect to them and respect where they had come from. For the actors who were originally refugees and asylum seekers and then professional actors, I wanted them to feel confident in what they were presenting and also feel that they were sharing really important stories. One of the actors spoke about how he felt that this was the most important performance that he had ever done because it dealt with these issues that he felt were urgent and needed to be told. And then for the audience, I hope that they were able to build connections with not only the storytellers, the interviewees, but also the greater issues that kind of face people who are living in conflict right now in terms of displacement and education, and that these stories are not as removed as they might think.
There was this man who came here the other day, and he called me a college dropout, said I was stupid. That was the reason I couldn't get education. And that made me so mad. I threw him right away, but I haven't been able to throw him out of here. But anyway, that keeps me going. Every time I feel demotivated and discouraged, I think of that man, because I used to top all my classes, and I know that I'm not stupid. I know it. It's just that I literally had no money to continue the studies.
I think that being able to do this really interdisciplinary work has been really amazing to me, and it's an opportunity that I wouldn't have had if I weren't here on the Marshall around these amazing people. And so I'm very grateful for the opportunity to get 2 years to experiment and play and learn about myself and the craft and how I can make it better and be a better storyteller for the things that matter.
I want to give credit to the different scholars and from Windle Trust and Commonwealth who have devoted their time, who have devoted their resources to ensure that the play gets to where it is. The commitment they had to ensure that we have something that's worthwhile, something that's worth remembering, that, this was our time when we were in the UK and this is what we did. It is something that we shall go back with. So above all that, I really want to give them, all the students, credit. I want to give Devika, I want to thank her for the work that she has done tirelessly. And also to the different people who have been able to support SEU and Windle Trust. Thank you.